What's up? It's your boy Kazi, and we're back to Kazi Plays. And today I'm gonna show you all the worst 3 characters to pick on each role. Now, I do want to point out that I'm not saying to never copy them because who knows, there might be a situation where you have no choice but to copy them. But what I'm saying is that if there are better options, you would probably be better going off copying other people instead of the people that I'm gonna say in this video. And on top of that, I do want to say, if you do want me to make another video like this where I talk about the top 3 best characters for each role to copy, go ahead and let's get this video to 5 likes. But without further ado, let's go and get into this. In order to figure out which rank I'm going to be placing each character, I will be using these factors: sustainability, how long will the character last, skill ceiling, will it take tons of hours, or with a little practice can I get a general idea of how to use the character, and the ultimate, is it worth it to go for the copy ult, and how can it impact your team and the enemy's team. And I'm going to be ranking these factors from low to high. Starting off with tanks, and in the 3rd spot is Zarya. Now if we're talking about her sustainability, I would say it's low. And actually, if you don't know already, Echo, she did get her ult nerfed a while back to where she doesn't get much health from tanks anymore like she used to. And if we're thinking about it, most people already have an idea of how to counter Zarya, to where they either shred through her bubbles or they bait the bubbles out to where she doesn't get much charge from them. Now if we're talking about the skill ceiling, I would say it's medium, because you need to be able to have the proper judgment to decide if you're gonna bubble yourself or if you're gonna bubble your allies. For example, if your Mercy is going for a res, you can bubble her and you get the res off, and on top of that, you could get a damage boost if the enemy shoots the bubble that's on Mercy. And if we're talking about the ultimate's worth, I would say it's slow, because here's the thing: you're on a 15-second timer, right? You need to be able to get the ult quick and get some worth out of it. And with Zarya, it's not that easy, because first of all, her beam doesn't do much damage to build ult when you're in copy form. And on top of that, getting people to shoot your bubbles and stuff when they already know how to counter Zarya makes it even harder. So even if you do get the ult, it's probably in the last couple of seconds. And fun fact, with Echo, her ult, it works differently on some characters. On some characters, when she goes back into her normal form, the ult disappears, but on some other characters, it actually stays and lingers around for a bit longer. And that's the reason why I put Zarya in the 3rd spot. Moving on to the 2nd spot, which is Doomfist, I would say his sustainability is low. Sure, Doomfist, he has great movement and he can get in and out, but he does have tons of weak points which people can use to counter him. And because of that, he can die easily, which is the reason why you probably wouldn't get much out of copying a Doom. Now if we're talking about his skill ceiling, Doomfist, his skill ceiling is pretty high in my opinion, because actually think about it like this, right? Whenever you're in comp and you go into a match, right, and you see a Doom, you're either thinking one of the 2 things: either he's gonna be a cracked Doom player, or he's gonna be dying a lot and he doesn't know what he's doing with Doom and it's just gonna be overextending. Because Doom is not somebody that anybody can pick up. He needs practice so you can know how to use him properly without holding back your team. Now if we're talking about his ultimate's worth, I would say it's medium, right? Because obviously if you know how to time yourself right, you can get into the fight and get his ult pretty quickly. But once you're in the air, actually, if it's like in the last couple of seconds, you'll just get immediately kicked off of the ult, so you wouldn't even get the ult off. And with Doom, it takes a good bit of time to get his ult, not as long as Zarya, but you may or may not get the ult off unless they're like really close to you, because obviously if you know how to use Doom's ult, you gotta like move around and lock onto somebody before you can land. And coming in at number 1 for the worst tanks to copy is Wrecking Ball. Now if we're talking about sustainability, I would say it's low. It's because of the fact that there's so many characters now that could easily catch him, and because of that, obviously with the health nerf, it's easy to catch him when you're in copy form. Now if we're talking about his skill ceiling, I would say it's high. it's even higher than Doomfist because it's so hard to use ball properly. That's why there's not that many good ball players. And most of the time when you're in ranked, especially in the low ranks, they see a ball, you already know it's game over because they're not going to do much with ball. Because actually, there has been a lot of people that I've known that they told me that they have to put so many hours into ball just to be able to use them right. And even then, they still have a lot to learn. Now, if we're talking about his ultimate, I would say it's around medium because his ult is definitely good for crowd control. But the ult does disappear once you get out of copy form. However, his ult, the ult charge is pretty fast. I would say it takes around 10 seconds. So you got like a good 5 seconds of crowd control. Nothing crazy, but it's still better than the other characters on this list. Before we move on to the next part, if you do want to go ahead and dive further into the community, I do have a Discord link, will be in the description below. But in this Discord, we talk about games like Overwatch and whatnot. And we even are a little goofy where we post memes and stuff too, and we're just here to have a good time. And if you're interested in that, go ahead and join the Discord. Now we're in the DPS category, and in the third spot is Ashe. And if we're talking about her sustainability, I would say it's slow. And the reason why is because sniper-like characters, they're not that easy to survive. And especially with characters like Ashe, all you have is that little shotgun for like a little get out of jail. But other than that, it's pretty much game over if you can't hit your shots. For example, like if a Reaper or Sombra is pulling up on you, it's pretty much over for you unless you can hit your shots. Now, if we're talking about her skill ceiling, I would say it's about medium. With Ashe, it's not, you need to put in some time to be able to hit shots right, especially headshots with her, but it's not crazy hard to be able to pick up Ashe. Now, if we're talking about her ultimate's worth, I would say it's about medium. Because you think, who doesn't love a good Bob, right? Bob, he can definitely get the job done. Now, he's not going to be there for long because with Ashe, unless you're hitting all your shots, you're probably going to get him within around like 10 seconds, right? And if you're really struggling, maybe you'll have like 3 seconds left with a Bob. And Bob, he doesn't linger either when Echo goes back into a regular form, which means that you wouldn't be able to get any use out of him when you're in your regular form either, which is the reason why Ashe is in third place. Moving on to the second spot, we have Hanzo. And if we're talking about his sustainability, I would say it's low. Now, the reason why is because sure, he can double jump and crawl on walls, but that's not going to do much when you're a DPS. With a DPS, you don't have that much health, so characters could easily get rid of you and shred through your health as a Hanzo. Now, if we're talking about his skill ceiling, I would say it's high. Hanzo players are, I give props to them because Hanzo is not that easy of a character to use. There's so much stuff that you have to practice with. You got to put in so many hours to be able to use Hanzo properly. Now, if we're talking about his ultimate, I would say it's medium, right? Because if you get a key thing, if you're a good Hanzo player, you could get his ult pretty fast. And you already know how crazy Hanzo ult is, where you can like shoot it and it goes and the dragons go through walls. So if you can hit your shots with Hanzo, you can get his ult pretty fast, especially with that one ability that he has where he just shoots a whole bunch of arrows pretty fast. If you can hit all of those on an enemy, you can get your ult pretty fast with Hanzo. It's just the only thing is that it's situational because it all depends on your skills with Hanzo. If you're not a good Hanzo, then chances are you're not going to be able to get the ult that quick. And most people aren't that good with Hanzo, so generally you probably want to avoid him. And in the number one spot for worst characters to copy is Widow. And a Widow, we all know her sustainability is extremely low. Anybody could dive her and it's pretty much game over. Literally half of the time, can you think, most of the times that I die to Widow is because I'm either not paying attention to them or I don't know where they're at. Once I know where they're at, I easily just dive in and I kill them most of the time. Now, if we're talking about the skill ceiling, I would say it's even higher than Hanzo. Widows, there's so much stuff that you got to keep track for, and being able to hit headshots, it's what's key about Widow. Because sure, you can hit body shots too, but hitting those headshots, especially on DPS and supports, are instant one taps. Getting those one taps can make it really easy for the rest of your team to push in. Now if we're talking about her ult, getting the Widow ult, it's not that easy. It's the same situation with Hanzo, where like depending on how high your skill is with Widow, then sure, you might get your ult quick, and you get a little scan and know where the enemy is at. You get intel. Intel is good in Overwatch. Everybody loves intel. It's just that it's all depends on your skill. If your skill is not that high, which is what most players are, most players, they're not that good with Widow, especially in the low ranks. So you probably wouldn't be able to get Widow's ult off anyways. And on top of that, when you go back to your regular form with Echo, the ult disappears. And finally, we're at the supports, and in the third spot is Illari. Now if we're talking about her sustainability, she's actually a special case, because if her pylon's there, then she's ranked a medium, but if not, she's ranked low. Now if you really think about it, in the meta with Illari, she really struggles against flankers already. So people already know when an Illari is on the team, all you gotta do is focus the pylon, and then the support's heals are cut in half. Because the beam, it doesn't really do much, especially when the other team is being super aggressive. Now if we're talking about Illari's skill ceiling, I would say it's medium. Because with Illari, you need to be able to decide if you're going to be using your charge shots, or if you're going to be using them small rapid fire shots to kill an enemy or to weaken them. Because using the charge shots does more damage, but it's slower, and using the quick shots are faster, but it does less damage. And on top of that, you need to be able to have map knowledge to figure out where's the best place to hide your pylon, because putting your pylon in obvious positions makes it easier for the flanks to easily destroy it. Now if we're talking about her ultimate's worth, I would say it's also medium, because actually one of the good things about Illari's ult when you're in Echo's copy form is that it actually lingers around a bit when you're back in your normal form as Echo, which gives you an extra bit of time to deal out the full damage of the ult. And on top of that, it's not too bad to get her ult charge. As long as you're hitting shots and you're healing people, it's pretty straightforward to get her ult. Moving on to the second spot, we have Ana. Now if we're talking about her sustainability, I would say it's medium, because she has two powerful weapons, sleeps and nades, and with these two you can survive for a pretty long time. Now if we're talking about her skill ceiling, I would say it's high, because there's two things that you need to worry about. One, you need to be able to hit your sleeps properly, because sometimes it's not going to be super easy to hit your sleeps. And on top of that, your nades, because you got to take into consideration what the other team has. Do they have a life weaver or a Kiriko that could easily remove the nade? And being a copy, you don't have the luxury of waiting for the nades to come back, because what, you only have 15 seconds, right? So you got to make what you have count. And if we're talking about the ultimate, I'd say it's low, because it's not worth it at all. With Ana, even trying your best, doing everything you can, it still takes a good bit to get her ult. And she's not the same with other characters, where like there are a few characters that have that lingering effect with their ult. Ana doesn't have that. The second you go back into your normal form, the nano goes away. And usually, even trying your best with Ana, you would probably get it when you have like 3-4 seconds left, and you can't really do much with that amount of time with a nano. And at the number one spot for the worst support to copy is Lucio. Now if we're talking about his sustainability, it's low, because here's the thing, sure, Lucio, he has the speed boost, can glide on walls and all of that, but the issue though is that people get most of the time, people, they do have decent aim, right? They could easily hit their shot and kill the Lucio. And on top of that, Lucio's heals, like sure, if you look at the stats, he has a lot of heals, but his heals, he can't output a lot of heals fast, right? He could output a lot of heals, it's just not gonna be fast. It's gradually grows over time. That's why a lot of people, they don't say Lucio's a healer. He's not a healer, because he can't keep characters alive, right? Now, if we're talking about skill ceiling, Lucio's skill ceiling is extremely high. Why? Because there's tons of stuff that Lucio mains do. They have custom controls. They have so many things set up that takes some time. And on top of that, if we're talking about his ultimate's worth, it's definitely low. Because here's the thing, Lucio, no matter how much I've tried, and I've seen a lot of people they tried this too, where even though they're doing their best they can with Lucio, they're gonna get their Lucio's beat within like what the last 2 seconds of Echo's copy, and Lucio does not have the benefit to where when Echo goes back into her normal form, the ult stays and lingers for a bit. It doesn't. It immediately disappears, which means that you're not gonna be able to get any use out of that ult. So if anything, it would probably be best just to copy Lucio and just to heal everybody up or just move around a bit. And with that, that ends the tier list for all the characters on each of the roles that I think is characters you probably should avoid. But if you do enjoy this type of content, honestly, go ahead and support your boy. But yeah, I think that's it, and I'll go ahead and catch y'all on the next one. Y'all take it easy.